Today, the topic today is using data and digital transformation, how we use our data, how we can best utilize it in the hatchery. Taylor Schilling, sales manager for Jamesway, has been with us year and a half, close to 2 years in that role. She was very instrumental in development and kind of putting forth this program we have, and I think she's going to do very well covering it. She's a graduate of Ohio State University, for those that are excited about that, and those that are not, I don't know. I'm from Georgia, so we have a little thing there. But anyway, so looking forward to hearing what Taylor has to say today. And so that I will turn the time over to Taylor. If you want to share your screen, please leave your camera on yourself as well so people can see you moving. Carolina, do you want to quickly let anybody know that join the interpretation module again in Spanish? Or I can just tell you in English. If you wanted to hear it in Spanish.
Bueno, no, realmente no, o sea, pues estamos felices de que estén acá con nosotros. Por cosas de cambio de horario en el norte ha sido cambiado el horario, entonces si se han perdido este webinario, les recordamos que va a ser grabado y compartido con ustedes.
Thank you. All right, Taylor, go ahead. We'll leave it to you and jump back on here when we're for the question and answer.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. We really appreciate the time you took out of your day. Like Dr. Keith said, my name is Taylor Schilling. I'm one of the sales managers for the United States with Jamesway. And today we're going to talk about the power of data in the hatchery and digital transformation, some of Jamesway's tools that we have to help with that process. Before I get started, I want to say a very special thank you to some of our Jamesway consultants, Henry Cole, Philip Perry, and Carolina Diaz, for their help with the content in some of these slides. So today we'll talk about the current state of today's hatchery, the purpose and obstacles of data collection and analyzation, examples and different types of data that we use, of course, data analysis, and finally, digital transformation. And like Dr. Keith and Carolina said, at any time, just leave your questions in the chat box at the bottom. We'll talk about those at the end. So today's hatchery, we're seeing larger hatcheries with a higher egg set capacity, more automation equipment, and less employees on the floor. We're seeing more and more office tasks for our hatchery management, which is limiting their embryo interaction. So how are they able to know what's going on in their hatchery if they're stuck in the office all day? And we're seeing increased demand. The global market growth rate through 2026 is currently projected at almost 9%. So we see a graph here at the top, a global map done in 2021 of poultry production. That's just going to keep getting denser and denser as the years go on. We're also seeing 80% of live poultry farmers are over the age of 40, with 6% of those voluntarily leaving the industry in 2021. So again, as the years go on, more and more of those seasoned, experienced employees are going to be leaving the industry. We see employee turnover rates very high in North America. We're averaging 3 to 4% monthly. It's becoming harder and harder to retain and hire that experienced hatchery staff. And with that, we're seeing a younger staff in the hatchery with less experience in the industry, of course. So we all know we're collecting large amounts of data in the hatchery, and we're storing it in various ways. We have good old pencil and paper. Some companies are using data collection tablets, which will automatically load the information to a shared source of some sort, so the corporate entities can see that information a little more quickly. Of course, we have Excel spreadsheets, and we have some automated computer software like our HatchCom, for instance, where it's automatically logging that incubation data and storing it in some computer software. So why are we collecting this data? Why are we doing it? Are we doing it to monitor equipment and operations? Are we just doing it to comply with company policies? Or are we using it to make management decisions, which is ultimately what we should be doing, because why else will we waste our time, right? So the purpose of data collection, obviously hatchery data is a valuable resource to us to identify issues or make adjustments to improve. However, good data is worth much. Poor data is worthless. It's not telling us anything. So we can utilize this data to monitor our chicken egg flows throughout the facility. We can monitor our compliance, safety, biosecurity, and animal welfare, which is more tying into those company requirements, such as company SOPs and policies. We can use it to assist us in our management decisions, monitor trends, or help troubleshoot issues. But most importantly, to know what is normal in the hatchery. We need to know our baseline numbers, what's a normal day of production look like for us, so we're able to spot when something's wrong. Some of the obstacles that we see with data collection, of course, this is more so old school pencil and paper or Excel that we're talking about. So, of course, data collected on paper is often lost in the archives, accidentally destroyed, you spill your coffee on it, and or difficult to analyze historical trends. We have difficulty sharing and accessing this information across all levels of the organization. So the breeder farms, to the hatchery, to the grow out facilities, to the processing plant, and to our corporate offices. We're spending excessive time collecting and uploading this data that might be better spent on other tasks if we're not utilizing the data we're spending so much time gathering. And we have to consistently collect data to have the most current information. If we don't have the current information, how can we make an educated decision to fix whatever issue arose? So overall, we're seeing data is being collected, but not utilized for any real purpose. Similarly, we have some issues, obstacles in analyzing and utilizing this data. So like we talked about, we have inexperienced staff that might be unsure how to examine the data they're collecting. They're not quite sure what they're looking at. Like we said, poor data leads to poor decision-making and causing potential further issues. And this data must be analyzed in a timely manner to make the correct and current decision. So if we don't know what normal is, we can't make the correct conclusion. We might fix something that didn't need to be fixed and make a bigger problem. So some examples of the data that we're gathering in the hatchery now, of course, this is a big, long list. Everybody can read better than I can. But basic hatchery information, our set dates, our hatch dates, number of eggs we're setting, what incubator or hatcher we're using, our temperatures, humidities, CO2 levels. We have our breeder information, so what farm, flock, the flock age, their lay date and breed. We're also tracking our performance, of course, our breakout data, hatchability, fertility, moisture loss, and livability. And some miscellaneous hatchery information like our sanitation, our biosecurity, safety, calibration logs. All of this type of data is important. But we have different types of data. So for example, here we have some basic hatchery information, our washer and boiler temperatures, our room and plenum pressures, temperatures, humidities. With these types of data, we can collect it and immediately respond if we know what is normal. For example, if we don't know what our normal plenum pressure is in our facility, how will we be able to decipher if the pressure is out of range or not? On the flip side, we have another type of data. This is some performance data up here. So our fertility, hatchability, moisture loss, breakout data. In this case, we have to collect and analyze before we respond. We have to know what's normal for our hatchery and also understand what factors in incubation would affect these performance data metrics to form the correct conclusion. So this requires a higher level of knowledge that the inexperienced staff may or may not have. So what data is truly needed? I filled up 2 PowerPoint slides full of different data points that we're collecting. What do we really need to measure? First and foremost, we should always adhere to our company requirements. They're there for a reason. But if we're collecting data above and beyond those requirements, we should collect as much as possible without sacrificing the quality of the data. Because remember, poor data leads to poor decisions. Our labor hours are already scarce, like we talked about. Let's not waste time gathering this data for it just to collect dust on the shelf. Let's use it to make better decisions and improve our performance in the hatchery. And of course, a small amount of good data is much more valuable than large amounts of poor data. We can do a lot more with that good data than all of that poor data that's not telling us anything. So data analysis. Like we said, some of our inexperienced managers may not know how to analyze this data or know what potential incubation issues would cause certain results, especially if we're analyzing poor data. So before we do any sort of analyzation, we have to validate our data is correct. So we should review our data, removing any obvious outliers or data entry errors. Creating a graph is the easiest way to visualize this. So we can see here on this graph, that little arrow is pointing to an obvious data entry error. So we can remove that outlier and continue to analyze that fertility data. All hatchery data is important and can be utilized to improve our operations, but we have to act on what the data is telling us. So a few examples of potential issues in the hatchery to investigate. If our incubator or hatcher is not reaching set point fast enough. If we have multi-stage machines, if we have uneven side-to-side crossbar temperatures or out-of-range cabinet pressures, if we have high early embryo loss or low moisture loss, low 3 and 7 day livability, or a high percentage of malformed chicks in our residue breakout. All of these factors are telling us something is wrong in the incubation process that we need to troubleshoot and fix. But again, we have to know what is normal to be able to spot those issues and correct them. In many cases, we're recording this data daily. This is probably the easiest way to report our daily production, but it can be difficult to analyze historical trends across flocks, incubators, hatchers, and hallways. This also limits the depth of analysis, so we can't take into account the effects of flock and egg age. We can't do a comparison of different profiles or a year-over-year comparison. Of course, electronic formats are always preferred to analyze data. Simply creating an Excel file with your daily information will allow for the comparisons I just talked about, but that takes away valuable time from your management duties, which could be better used quickly analyzing and forming conclusions or action items, which is why digital transformation is on the rise across the industry. This is the next step in data analysis, and many hatcheries have already begun the process of digital transformation, utilizing that automated data software to monitor your incubators, hatchers, room and plenum conditions, and your candling data with in ovo vaccination, for an example. Here at Jamesway, we have several digital solutions, which we will talk about further in a minute. Our HatchCom and Maestro systems for incubation equipment, our Guardian HVAC controllers, which is what you see in the picture here, our HatchSense and our 360. So to summarize the importance of digital transformation, we've talked about a lot of this already, but to summarize, like we said, demand is consistently on the rise. As that production demand increases, our data collection and reporting is going to increase as well. And traditional data entry such as paper or Excel can't handle the job now, and it certainly won't in the future. We're spending too much of our valuable management time in the office working on paperwork and creating reports, when it could be spent quickly analyzing data, making data-driven decisions, and being hands-on in the hatchery, observing conditions, chicks, and spending time with our staff. The average age of hatchery staff is decreasing, as we know, younger generations are more familiar with and receptive to technology. Of course, hiring and retaining quality, experienced staff is an increasing challenge. The ease of digital data collection and reporting might entice these employees to retain their positions rather than growing frustrated with quote unquote busy work. If this analyzing data becomes much easier to them, they might not think their job is so hard. Digital transformation creates an opportunity to more easily share data across all levels of the organization. So from the breeder to the plant to corporate, everyone can easily access it online. Tailoring data analysis makes it possible to improve our decision-making, which will increase profits. So if we have good data that's automatically being stored for us and collected for us, we can know what's normal first and foremost, quickly spot issues and make improvements, which increases profits and performance for us. And lastly, automated data collection allows management to quickly spot and troubleshoot issues, decreasing downtime while increasing profits, like I just said. So some of the Jamesway solutions that we have 2 platforms for incubation management. We have HatchCom for our Jamesway machines and Maestro with Chickmaster. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with those. These are automated systems to monitor and effectively manage incubation equipment, including the hatchery layout, the machine overview, our temperatures, humidity, damper, carbon dioxide. This is a picture of an example of a HatchCom machine overview. We have our alarm log, incubation profiles, graphs of incubation data, our machine maintenance and calibration schedules, our machine settings, so our alarms, our turning, our calibration, and our numeric data reports. So just as an example, here is a picture of a HatchCom layout, so we can see that incubation data there on the screen. We have the same thing with Maestro. So for our Chickmaster machines, we can monitor what's going on. And here's an example of a HatchCom profile, so we can set that up online, as well as with Maestro. For our ventilation management, we have the Guardian Control. So this is an automated management system for your HVAC equipment. Not only for the Jamesway airway ventilation, but it can seamlessly merge with any existing systems you might have. And Guardian is available to integrate into HatchCom, which is nice to keep everything in one place in one program. The Guardian controls temperature, humidity, and pressure in all of your rooms, as well as the plenum pressures. It'll call out alarms for any ventilation issues. You're able to profile your ventilation by setting schedules for all rooms. You can revise set points and modes of operation on your specific equipment. And we have independent room controllers. So here is what it looks like on the computer program for our Guardian. We can see the plenum pressures in all of our rooms, egg storage, as well as the individual room controllers on the wall. Next, we have our HatchSense monitoring system. So that's this little gray piece of metal sitting on the hatcher baskets. You can see here, the HatchSense system allows the hatcher controls to watch for movement and humidity changes inside the hatch baskets. So once that first pip is detected, once it senses that humidity change, the program will initiate a sequence of modifications. So essentially a HatchSense profile to narrow the hatch window and stimulate simultaneous hatching. And lastly, we have our 360 software. So like Dr. Keith mentioned, I actually started with Jamesway working solely with the 360 service. So I have a little bit of background knowledge on it. This is our all-in-one solution for hatchery management. 360 is a subscription, and it's a cloud-based software as a service platform, which we host on our secure Microsoft Azure cloud. It's an extension of HatchCom, and 360 provides that live HatchCom data remotely to any phone, tablet, laptop, any smart device, anywhere in the world at any time. So if you're on vacation in the Bahamas and you want to check on the hatchery and make sure everything's good, you can get on your phone and instantly see that live incubation data. In addition to viewing that live data, 360 also provides a wealth of other features. We have dashboards to easily monitor our machine performance and overall hatchery items that's customizable for every user. We have the ability to track our machine maintenance hours, so we can see if we're spending much more time doing maintenance on one machine than the others. We have the ability to schedule maintenance tasks and assign those to employees. So every employee in the hatchery has their own login to 360. And we have specific roles. So if we want to tailor the experience and have them only view one part of the platform and not everything, we have the ability to do that as well. We have some guided diagnostics on here to easily identify and troubleshoot machine issues with pictures and schematic drawings, a step-by-step process. We're able to manage our stock inventory for all equipment in the hatchery. So not only your Jamesway spare parts, but any third-party spare parts, your HVAC equipment, your sanitation, chemicals, whatever you'd like to keep stock inventory on, we have the ability to do that. We have a live and comprehensive alarm and user event history. So not only the call-out alarms, but when the doors are open, when the lights are turned on, any event that's happening to that machine is being recorded in the 360 cloud. We have comprehensive incubation data history and the ability to create advanced graph comparisons. So from the time we turn on the 360 server, we're logging all of that incubation data in the cloud. So you could go back 2 years and create a graph comparison on a machine from then and now. You could compare a whole room full of hatchers side by side or overlapping graphs, however you would like to do that. Another note I'd like to say is the 360 service is a one-way communication from HatchCom. So you're able to view all this data. It's live. You're able to do a lot of data analysis, but you cannot edit anything in HatchCom. 360 can't talk backwards. So you can't turn off alarms. You can't edit machine profiles or anything of that nature, just to keep your hatchery safe. We have full traceability of egg batches from the breeder farm information, egg flows throughout the hatchery to that day-old chicks, and performance data. And that performance data is able to be automatically reported to graph performance over an incubation cycle and or the flock's lifetime. So here we have a few screenshots of the 360 platform. Here we're looking at a layout. So you can see that live incubation data is on there. The layout is pulled directly from HatchCom, so it's bespoke to your hatchery. And this data is being updated every 5 seconds, so you know you're always viewing the most current information. Here's an example of the graphs that I mentioned before. So we can graph side by side an incubator and a hatcher in the same incubation cycle. We could duplicate a setter, for example, and do incubation cycles back to back, compare an entire room. However you'd like to analyze that incubation data. With just a few clicks of a button, you're able to do that. We're also able to identify spare parts and create maintenance tasks for them. So all Jamesway equipment will come loaded with a full spare parts list. From there, you can click on a part and see the picture of it, the part number, and this recommended running hours. So the 21% status at the top is showing us that this contactor has used 21% of its recommended lifetime. We're taking these recommended cycles or running hours from the manufacturer's recommendations. So we know once the status reaches 100%, that doesn't mean that the part is automatically going to fail once it hits 100%, but that gives us some time to prepare. Once it hits 80 or 90%, we can make sure we have a spare on the shelf in our inventory And we can try to schedule a time to replace it before it breaks with eggs in the machine and we have downtime and potential loss. And we can also create a maintenance task from here as well. If we replace this part or if we just had to make an adjustment, something like that. So we have a comprehensive maintenance history for every machine. For our traceability of egg batches, this starts with the breeder flocks. So we can input our farm, flock information, number of males and females, their age and what breed they are. From there, we can create specific egg batches. So the lay date, we can enter the date we received them. And of course, the number of eggs and estimated hatchability. So we can visualize our egg storage. We can also plan orders. So if we know 3 or 4 weeks from now, we need an order of 100,000 chicks or poults, whatever the case may be, we can plan that and say, let's use these egg batches for this specific order that's supposed to hatch on this date. From the order, we can actually assign those egg batches to a specific machine and even down to the trolley level. So we can pick the incubators and hatcheries we want to use, and then assign those egg batches in the trolleys in the machine to have a visualization of not only the setting pattern, but also the transfer pattern, what needs to go where. And finally, after the 3 or 4 weeks is over, we can enter our candling and chick data to create those automatic reports. So from entering 2 numbers, you'll have automated reports of not only the incubation cycle, what that performance looked like across the different flocks, but also it goes back to that breeder flock and we can map historical performance over the flock's lifetime. And we have our guided diagnostics. Here's an example here. So like I said, this is a step-by-step guide. So if you have a part that's failed, you click on the part and it will ask you a series of questions, yes or no answers, to identify the root cause of the issue and help you troubleshoot and get the machine back running a lot faster. We see a lot, people aren't sure where the root problem is, so they just start replacing parts, or the machine sits there because we can't identify the issue, why things aren't working correctly. So this guided diagnostics will really pinpoint where the root cause of the problem is, help us save on spare parts and only replace the correct part that's failed, and get the machines back up and running a lot faster. So that was all I had. It was a shorter webinar today. For any further information on our digital products, especially the 360 service, please contact your sales rep. You can contact myself or our sales at Jamesway email. We'd love to schedule a time to go through a demonstration. But I guess for now, we can open up for questions and discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. That was very good. Okay, we've got a few questions here. You can unshare your screen if you would like. Thank you. Okay, so somebody has both a Jamesway and Chickmaster equipment in the same facility. How does we manage that with this program?
With the 360?
Yeah, with 360. I mean, can it be used for somebody that has both types of equipment?
We can, yes. So 360 will pull that live data from the Jamesway machines. And then for all the Chickmaster machines, we unfortunately don't have the bandwidth to talk to the Chickmaster controls, but you'll still be able to log your maintenance tasks, your egg batches, egg flows throughout the hatchery, performance data, all of that type of information.
So if somebody's got existing Chickmaster and using Maestro as of now, can we use the 360 or?
They can, yes.
Okay. But if we've got both, then it's a little bit more challenging. Both in
yes.
one. Okay.
We can still do it though.
Okay. What about like multi-stage, a little bit older hatcheries, multi-stage equipment, Jamesway or Chickmaster multi-stage? Is that something that we are at a point that we can use 360 for those hatcheries?
Absolutely. So we're currently developing what we called the track module, which was those egg flows through the hatchery, breeder flocks. That module is being created right now to work with multi-stage functionality. Currently, the 360 service works all in, all out, so it only works for a single stage. We've recognized that, and we're developing it now to be able to do 6 transfer patterns in the same machine, 3 transfer patterns, whatever the case may be. So the multi-stage can use that module specifically. But as far as maintenance, reports, all of those other modules, absolutely multi-stage is ready to go.
Okay, well, good. What about somebody they've got Maestro and they've got Jameric controllers? I mean, can 360 be applicable there? And what would be the minimum requirements they would need outside of that?
So for a Maestro with a Jameric controller, we would not be able to pull that live data, but every other aspect of 360 will still be functional for you.
Okay.
So for us to be able to pull the live data, I guess I should say we need Hatchcom 4 or 5. So for some older Jamesway customers, maybe you have Hatchcom 3, we can just upgrade you to the newer software version and we'll be ready to go.
So it's easily to address that.
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of total data can we store on that 360? I know all this data coming in from our equipment and machines. I mean, can we store like breakout data once we get it? And, where are we at with that?
Breakout data is not on there just yet. Currently, we put in our candling data. So how many live embryos did we transfer to the hatcher? And then how many day-old chicks hatched? And then from those 2 data points, we calculate the hatchability, fertility, hatcher fertile, all of those numbers in the automated reports. Residue breakouts is something on the roadmap on the horizon to be added at a later date.
So we will as need. One thing you said in there that intrigued me is the guided diagnostic thing. And as a consulting and knowing our consultants go out so many different places, that's intriguing, as we've talked about this before, where we can go through and maybe prior to a on-site visit, we can say, let's go through this step by step. How are the people that have is there enough people that have used that part of it, that have received that well, or is that in use yet?
It is in use. So far, all the customers that have seen it and played around with it are very impressed. Obviously, I'm from North America, so we have drastic labor challenges. We spend way too much money on spare parts because we don't know what we're trying to replace. We're just pulling everything out and replacing everything. You would know your team goes out a lot to troubleshoot maintenance issues themselves. So this is a really good tool with schematic drawings, pictures, step by step, very easy to identify and understand. And hopefully that will lead to learning. So the next time the same issue occurs, the maintenance team or whoever remembers how to fix it. So
yeah, I think that is a very exciting part of it, particularly when you talk about preventative maintenance. And you put on there is like we give we can see a predictive lifespan of certain parts and equipment that goes absolutely right along with preventative maintenance program. And if somebody wants to develop, and unfortunately, due to, like you said, so many hatcheries are short of people and stuff, so many people are spending too much time putting out fires rather than preventing the fires in the first place. So with this data, what does a customer that gets 360, what do they have to do day to day? I mean, do they have to do any input and upkeep, or once it's set up, is it just plug and play and go? Or
yeah, once it's set up, it's really plug and play. Initially we would have to enter those initial stock levels if we want to keep track of our spare parts inventory. We have those preventative maintenance tasks, like he said, or our end of life prediction automatically pops up in the calendar. Of course, those are years away in most cases, but if you have any recurring maintenance tasks that you'd like to add every 2 weeks, calibrate this as an example, you just have to enter those one time and then they'd be recurring tasks on the calendar. And of course, if a maintenance person goes in and replaces a part, they would just have to quickly say, this is the part I replaced on this machine, this date and time, and they're good to go.
So when somebody signs up to use the 360, how much do they have to do initially? Do the customer have to sit down and input all the data from the hatchery, or is this something that's auto-loaded?
That's something that we can help with. A team of myself, and we have a few others on the 360 team that definitely will help with this process. We would just need a little bit of input, of course, from the hatchery of what those stock levels are or what tasks you want to make recurring to which employees. You know, we can help load the employees into the software as well to get everything set up, but it takes a couple of days to get everything up and running from start to finish.
So somebody that's getting this, do they have to put in their own information on their equipment, just like the whole 360?
No.
That part's come
We do that,
forward,
yes.
so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. So when we onboard the customer on our end, create their portion of the 360 cloud, we'll know what specific machine types they have, and that will populate their spare parts lists.
Okay.
Obviously, their layout, we just pull directly from Hatchcom, so they don't have to do anything there. So a lot of it's already done for them.
And if so if it's like an older hatchery that say it's been running for 10 years or something, is the age of the equipment put into play? So when we start this, it's not pretending it's new. It's like, okay, we've already used 10 years of its life and we can kind of get a predictive thing. Is that?
So what we do is we'll input everything as 0% for 30 days, 60 days, whatever we decide. And then we'll look at what the lifetimes look like after that period. And then we can make a prediction going back 5, 10 years, however long the equipment has been there, to get a more accurate prediction on what those life cycles look like.
So we almost have to, in a sense, calibrate it. Like we have to figure out, okay, what's happening here for a month or two, and then we have a baseline. So like what you're talking about, the normal. Okay, what is normal?
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up several times because I talk about that a lot in my discussions. We have to know what normal is so we know what not normal is and how to address it.
Absolutely.
So a customer or one of the attendees here has Chickmaster Maestro controllers. Can they move that into Hatchcom 5, the newer version of Hatchcom?
They cannot, to my knowledge.
Okay. But they can use the 360, but it's outside of Hatchcom 5. So the 360 works with the Maestro, but they can't convert everything to a Hatchcom 5.
Correct. Yeah, because Hatchcom works on the Ethernet and fiber optic communications, where Chickmaster machines have those serial communications, machine to machine to machine. And those aren't, I guess Hatchcom is not written to talk to those controllers in the Chickmaster machine.
But the 360 can. We've got okay. How would you storing other data, is it, can everything be stored here, or is it something like we talked about how people store data with paper, which is never a good thing, I don't think, but electronic using Excel or different formats. Is that something that they should continue to balance and do both, or is it something that once it's set up, they can just say, hey, their data's all here?
Yeah, it's our goal is for it to be 360 is your solution. So you don't have to spend time making an Excel report of your performance graph, or keeping work orders for maintenance in pencil and paper. Our hope is that everything will be on the 360 service. We just launched 360 in 2023 at Atlanta in January, and at IPP in Atlanta in January. So as we've talked about, there are a couple of features that we're still developing, still working on. So as customers tell us feedback of what they still would have to keep on Excel or on pencil and paper, we're integrating that to be in 360 as well. So this can be your solution. This is how you manage your hatchery. And the only reason, they'd still use Hatchcom or Maestro to set up their profiles or turn alarms off, those types of things that 360 is not managing. But that's our hope, that this is the solution for data analysis.
Yeah. Carolina, I see in there that you're wanting to make a response to one of these questions, discussion? Do you want to pop on here and contribute?
Well, and in Spanish, you mean?
In English, and it'll get translated to Spanish.
Oh,
You said you wanted to comment on the Chickmaster Maestro.
sorry. Sure. Yes. So basically, Maestro can be cannot be connected with 360. So what we will see is just the management of data, so we can have other models. Taylor has mentioned it before. With Maestro, we will be able to have it separate, and what we can do is just add data to it. So basically we might be able to have like a maintenance program as well. So the maintenance program will be available. Also, we can do the planning process. So we can do orders, as also Taylor mentioned it up. What we might not be able to see is the live data pulled from Maestro. So we might not be able to see the machine status, the alarms, for example. And that could be done maybe in the future, but for now we don't have that available. So Maestro will be like separately, and it will not join 360. So 360 will not have full information from Maestro. However, on the other models, we might be able to put data. So for example, we can do an order, and as Taylor said, we might be able to see where the eggs were located on an incubator, because we have the ability to have a map of a Chickmaster machine, and or a Chickmaster, like a classic or a P3CM. So we will be able to track all the egg movement since the egg storage to the machines, to the incubator and the hatchery. And also it will like recommend us a position of the eggs based on breeder age and egg pack characteristics. So that is also very, very helpful, because actually currently some of the hatcheries, they do it manually. And sometimes, as she mentioned it, that kind of data is hard to track and to analyze. So with 360, we might have like more data available.
As a follow-up to that, Taylor, so Carolina, she does a lot of she's one of our consultants based in Columbia. She does a lot of our remote monitoring for our customers if they want us to look at their Hatchcom or Maestro or whatever. So she's in the Jamesway family. So could somebody else, maybe an independent consultant for a company or somebody else within the company, they want access to that? Is that something like that you can, somebody has this can share it and say, yes, you're allowed to get on there? Or is it, how do they control that? Who can get on or off?
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever the admin is at the hatchery, so usually that's the hatchery manager, they can add that consultant or whoever they want as a user on 360, and they can get on there. To your point, from our viewpoint at Jamesway, there are two options. If a customer wants to share their information with us at Jamesway and have Carolina or Henry or Philip, someone on the team, get in on our end and look at your 360 data to maybe help troubleshoot something, that's available. There's also a tick box. If you do not want Jamesway to see your information, you can turn it off and we won't see it at all. Completely up to the customer's discretion.
So there's that level of security. So it's like somebody has to have actual permission to do it. But they can give permission to our people or independent people for that matter.
Sure.
But I know we've talked about in the past the security level, and I know some people have asked, we wanted a very interactive thing, but talk a little bit about why this is not so interactive. It's only a one-way street, and I believe it goes down to the security of people's data. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We've all heard horror stories of people getting into someone's system that shouldn't be there. And we host 360 on a Microsoft Azure cloud, which is very respected and very secure in itself. So it's unlikely someone would ever get onto our 360 cloud. But if they did, they can't harm anything on the hatchery level. They might be able to see some data and graphs, but the hatchery itself remains safe.
Yeah, might be able to, but hopefully that's not even going to happen. But they can't.
Highly unlikely that would happen anyway. But just have an extra layer of security for our customers. We've done it that way.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm excited about this, and I know, you know, Carolina probably has, and our other consultants, that we go out routinely to customers and being able to look at more data in a better way of formalizing it and putting it together. I think is tremendous. For maybe it make it so we don't get to go as many places to work with customers. I don't know. Did you have a comment, Carolina?
Yeah, keep like from the security standpoint, one of the most important things that I found out with 360 is that we can create positions. So for example, the egg storage manager will be able to manage all the egg storage inventory, egg storage days, but they will not be able to create an order or to do something with the maintenance program. So according to the position of each person and to the user and the options that we enable to the position, they will be able to deal with some of the tools we have on 360, which is really nice.
Another security measure so things don't happen that are not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, great. This has been very good. I'm really excited about this whole process and hopefully how it's going to make our, you know, our jobs easier, but hatchery managers, people managing hatcheries have to deal with people and corporate demands and requests and everything. I think it's just one more step to make our job not just easy. We're not trying to be easy. We're trying to be efficient and be able to do it in a changing world of people and personnel. So we're not trying to look for the easy way out, just trying to be the better way to operate and do things. So if you have any last comments, Taylor, before we wrap up, or?
No, I think you summarized it very well. Like I said, if anyone's interested, we have a demo website, so it has all fake data in there. So we can show what the 360 software would look like. If anyone's interested in seeing it more in depth, please let your sales team know. Let one of the consultants know. My email will be in the presentation shared with you all. Just let us know and we'd be happy to do that. And thank you all for your time and asking me to host this week.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for attending or this version of our webinars. We will be having these monthly for the rest of the year, so please look at what we've got coming up, and look forward to seeing y'all again. And again, thank you, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you, Taylor and Carolina, for your help. Bye.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Bye.